2001: A Space Odyssey is a sci-fi cult film directed by Stanley Kubrick. Today it is seen as one of his most important and influential work. It still has reruns in theaters and has influenced more modern films such as Interstellar by Christopher Nolan and Barbie by Greta Gerwig. For those of you who haven't seen this film, the story is divided into three parts. The first part is a tale of a tribe of early hominids who find an extraterrestrial artificial intelligence in the shape of a black monolith who gives the tribe the knowledge to use weapons and commit murder. The second part is about a man named David Bowman, who is an astronaut on a mission to Jupiter. The spaceship he's on is controlled by a man-made artificial intelligence named HAL 9000. The computer malfunctions and David must shut it down in order to survive and fulfill his mission. The third part is about David meeting a third monolith in Jupiter's orbit. He is then transported through a stargate and is brought to a prison where he sees himself age until he dies and is reborn as a star child. He finally returns to Earth as a godlike being overlooking the planet. Before I go into this analysis, I must give credit to William Cooper for opening my eyes to the occult symbolism behind this movie. Now I'm going to show you proof that Stanley Kubrick is a Freemason. A quick Google search on him does not reveal any clear images of him doing common Masonic poses such as the one eye or hidden hand gesture of the Master Mason. Instead, I found an auction site which auctioned off the Masonic throne used in his final film Eyes Wide Shut. As you can see, the double-headed eagle is a symbol for the ancient and accepted Scottish rite of the Freemasons. It represents the dual-headed nature of politics and control, with the Latin words ordo ab chaos, meaning order from chaos. In a future video, I will go more into details of what the Hegelian system means and how the elite used this philosophy to control the world population. Here we see a letter Kubrick signed, thanking a professor for lending him the Masonic throne as a document of authenticity for the auction house. It reads as follows: Dear Professor, his gesture towards the Freemason who created the atmosphere in a ritual way in a lodge like that of his grandfather was the Venerable 33 has no equal. Of the icastic representation of the eye that from triangle looks at the world, indeed it was possible through the thrones that you allowed me to seize tuning forks of those symbols. J got unique visibility of masks and silences. May illustrious professor hold me as your debtor, where this apron I send you is only one symbolic feedback. From the end of the millennium, have the triple bowl. Best regards, Stanley Kubrick. As you can see here, Stanley Kubrick is deeply indebted to the professor who lent him this Masonic throne to use in his movie. Alright, now that we know Stanley Kubrick is a Freemason, we can interpret the movie through a Masonic ideological viewpoint and unlock the true hidden meaning of the movie. At its core, 2001: A Space Odyssey reveals the Masonic ideology, which can be summed up as a form of Luciferian Gnosticism. Gnosticism is the belief that the material world is evil, created by an evil god, and that the real, superior God exists outside the material realm. The way to reconnect to God is through knowledge and wisdom, known as gnosis, a Greek word for knowledge. The elite core within secret societies such as Freemasonry and its offshoots such as Skull and Bones, Thelema, and Fraternitas Saturnus have corrupted this philosophy by turning it into a left-hand path ideology where man can become a god within the material realm through self-worship and the practice of black magic, with the end goal being to reincarnate in the material world to an elite family, thereby repeating the endless cycles of power and materialism with the help of this evil god. Alright, now that you have a basic understanding of Luciferian Gnosticism, let's get into the analysis of this movie. The Dawn of Man sequence is meant to symbolize the story of Genesis. Before man committed sin, they lived as subjects to nature. The main tribe is pushed away by a more aggressive tribe, and although they yelled and intimidated each other, they didn't kill, and all men were equal. That is until the monolith appears in front of the exiled tribe. This monolith represents the forbidden knowledge, the apple, or Lucifer, the light bearer. The monolith gives the man the wisdom to sin and become their own gods, taking control of nature, becoming their own masters, and no longer subjects to it. The scene here represents the killing of Abel by Cain, symbolizing the first act of murder. This can also be interpreted as the split between the elite and the masses. Those who have received and kept esoteric knowledge, and those who are subjects of the elite, who are only given the exoteric interpretation of the sacred knowledge and therefore cannot experience gnosis. Let's go to part 2. The main narrative in the second portion of the film is man's ascent to godhood by killing God. God in this sense is represented as a perfect man-made intelligence by the name of HAL 9000. I will now read you a quote from HAL in the movie. No 9000 computer has ever made a mistake or distorted information. We are all, by any practical definition of the words, foolproof and incapable of error. In other words, HAL 9000 presents itself as a perfect being, a god. A fun fact, if you shift each acronym of HAL by one letter, you get the word IBM. It's interesting how Stanley Kubrick was able to predict the rise of supercomputing and artificial intelligence. Today, IBM is no longer known as the lead consumer-oriented computing brand, but IBM is still well and active and has pivoted to creating supercomputers and developing the infrastructure that runs the internet today. Here are a few examples of supercomputers created by IBM. Notice how they look similar to the monolith from the movie. HAL also has a single red eye, which represents the all-seeing eye of Saturn. If you watched my previous video on Jamie XX's music video Gosh, I did a quick explanation behind the meaning of the one eye symbol. What I forgot to mention was that the true meaning of the one eye symbolizes the eye of Saturn, which can be found in its south pole. The monolith itself is in the shape of a black rectangle, which symbolizes the black cube of Saturn, which is a 3D prison construct. Kubrick originally intended for the monolith to be a black cube, but changed the design during production. In a future video, I will be explaining the significance of Saturn and its constant appearance in religion, corporate and political organizations, as well as mass media, and why the elite reveres Saturn. Eventually, David outsmarts the HAL 9000 and shuts him down as he continues on his journey to Jupiter as the only survivor. This can be interpreted as only the chosen ones, the evolved humans, those who can overcome God, will have a seat in the next phase of evolution. Those who have succumbed to man's creation are left behind, and this will result in the split of the species between the evolved elite and the barbaric masses. 2001: A Space Odyssey is heavily influenced by Nietzschean philosophy, hence the beginning of the film playing the song Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Richard Strauss, which is also the title of Friedrich Nietzsche's most famous work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, where he describes man's highest goal is to become the Übermensch, which literally translates as the Overman or the Superman. In order to become a Superman, one must kill God, as in leaving God behind and worshipping the self in order to evolve spiritually and become a god. Nietzsche was a Freemason. A quick Google search reveals that Nietzsche was an atheist according to BigThink.com, but one cannot be initiated into Freemasonry if one doesn't believe in a supreme deity. Here are two pictures of Nietzsche doing the hidden hand gesture of a master mason as well as the covering of one eye. In a future video, I'll be going more in depth on Freemasonry and why a belief in a supreme deity is necessary to be initiated into the secret fraternity. In the final part of the movie, David is sucked into a stargate and experiences a vision that overwhelms him. Here again, Kubrick displays the one-eye symbolism. This scene represents David on his path to enlightenment as he receives the light and is guided by Lucifer, the light bearer. Freemasons are obsessed with receiving the light, which means knowledge. The figurative metaphor of light is deeply embedded in their initiation rituals. Here is a scene from the movie From Hell, where they show us parts of the Masonic initiation ritual.
Let the brother receive the light.
The worshipful master proclaims that the initiate has received the light and is now towards a path of illumination. Here we have a quick shot of 7 diamond-shaped beings floating in space. Many have interpreted these creatures as the creators of the monolith. The significance of the number 7 is that it represents the 7 classical planets in our solar system, which includes the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn. Freemasons and other secret societies with roots in Babylonian mystery religions believe that the 7 planetary bodies are the greatest forces affecting our reality. And finally, David ends up in a sort of human prison or zoo, where he's being observed by the aliens as he progresses in age and ends up in his deathbed, where he is reborn through the powers of the monolith as a star child. This scene is very powerful and can be interpreted as David finally realizing that the 3-dimensional reality plus the extra dimension of time that we live in is just an artificial construct of the demiurge. Time and space is just an illusion. When he finally realizes this, he achieves gnosis and transcends. The Star Child represents his evolved soul becoming a godlike being. The movie ends with David floating towards Earth's orbit and overseeing the planet as a god. This is the Freemasons' ideology, that the chosen few who have the potential to evolve and become gods will rule the world over those who are not initiated and unworthy of the sacred knowledge. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on the occult mysteries exposed.